I saved cash for 2 years to buy a new car for my dad for his 50th birthday, but I heard Dad say to Mom, "I wish this idiot had never been born." I left home that day. Week later, Dad begged me. I was 23, still living at home, still trying to earn respect from two people who probably never wanted me around in the first place. Carter and Dana. I used to call them Dad and Mom, but that stopped the night I heard what they said. Something shifted after that. They lost the last bit of respect I had for them. Once that's gone, so is the title. You don't call someone Dad after he says he wishes you'd never been born. For 2 years I worked my ass off. Full-time job at a warehouse, freelance coding gigs at night, barely sleeping, just saving. Every spare dollar went into a fund I kept secret. I had this plan. Carter's 50th birthday was coming up, and I was going to surprise him with a brand new Mustang. The exact model he used to drool over whenever we passed one on the road. I imagined his face when I handed him the keys. That moment kept me going. I thought maybe this would be it. The one thing that finally made him see me as more than some useless mistake who was taking up space. The only person who knew was Grandpa Henry. He used to be a mechanic, the only person in the family with any sense. He told me more than once that Carter was a leech, that he spent his life using people and playing the victim. Said Carter had never worked for anything in his life and hated anyone who reminded him of that, especially me. He told me years ago that the inheritance was coming to me, not his son. I didn't ask for that, didn't need it, but Carter must have known. It explained a lot. He never hit me or anything like that, but the way he talked to me? Like I was some deadbeat roommate he couldn't evict. Every conversation with him turned into some weird power trip, and Dana was always there to co-sign it. If Carter insulted me, Dana would say I was being sensitive. If I tried to stand up for myself, she'd ask me why I was always trying to start something. It was like they saw me as a problem they couldn't return. Still, I kept saving. I loved my room, the posters, the old guitar, the tiny window that overlooked the street. It was mine, even if nothing else in that house felt like it was. I didn't have friends over, didn't go out much. I was just focused. I was so close to buying the car. The dealership even had it held for me. All I had to do was show up and pay. And then one night, I couldn't sleep. I was watching something dumb on Netflix, and around 1 a.m., I got up to use the bathroom. On the way back, I heard Carter and Dana talking in their room. Their door was cracked, and I wouldn't have stopped if I hadn't heard my name. Dana was saying she didn't understand why I worked so much. Carter laughed and said it was because I thought I was better than everyone else. Then he said it. I wish this idiot had never been born. Just like that. No hesitation. And Dana didn't even flinch. She laughed. Said something about how Grandpa always liked me too much anyway. I stood in the hallway for a while after that, just staring at their door. Not angry. Just done. There's a point where disappointment doesn't even sting anymore, it just confirms what you already knew. I went back to my room, packed a duffel bag, grabbed my laptop, my stash of cash, and the printed photo of the Mustang I'd been saving for. By sunrise, I was at Grandpa Henry's doorstep. He opened the door, looked me up and down, and said, "So, he finally showed his teeth." I moved in that day. Henry didn't ask questions. Just showed me to the spare room and told me I was home now. A week later, Carter sent me a text. First one I'd gotten from him in over a year that wasn't just him complaining about the lawn or the dishes. Still getting me that birthday gift? That's when I knew Henry told him about the car. And now Carter wanted it. The day after I got Carter's text, I didn't answer. I just stared at it for a while, sitting at the small kitchen table in Grandpa's place, drinking black coffee that tasted like burnt wood. He walked in, saw the look on my face, and didn't even need to ask. "He texted you," he said. I nodded. "Guess he wants to know if he's still getting the car." Grandpa shook his head and sat down. "He didn't want the son, but he'll take the Mustang." I laughed, but not because it was funny. Later that afternoon, the house phone rang. Grandpa still had a landline, the old kind with buttons that click when you press them. He answered, and as soon as I heard the tone in his voice shift, I knew exactly who was on the other end. "No, Carter. He's not coming back." "You made sure of that," he said, calm but hard. I could only hear Grandpa's side of the conversation, but it was clear Carter wasn't letting up. Grandpa's jaw tightened. "What are you even talking about? What gift?" Oh, you mean the car you don't deserve? The one he was working himself into the ground to buy you while you were busy trashing him behind closed doors? There was a long pause, and then Grandpa did something I didn't expect. He laughed. Not a regular laugh either. It was short and sharp, like someone had just told the worst joke in the world. You're not gonna manipulate him like you manipulate everyone else, Carter. You're not owed a damn thing. I was standing in the hallway now, just listening. Grandpa glanced at me then said, You want the car? Come ask him yourself. And then he hung up. He'll be here in a couple hours, Grandpa said. Pack your pride. I didn't say anything. I went back to my room and stared at the photo of the Mustang again. The idea of Carter actually showing up, standing in front of me, asking for something, that felt like a glitch in reality. He'd never asked me for anything in my life. He only demanded. Around 5 p.m., a car pulled up. Not his. Dana's. I watched from the window as Carter stepped out in some wrinkled button-up like he was going to a job interview. Dana stayed in the car. Of course she did. He rang the doorbell. Grandpa didn't move. Just looked at me. You want to open it? I did. Carter was standing there, trying to look composed. It was like watching a man try to swallow a pill 3 sizes too big. We stared at each other for a second, then he cleared his throat. I heard you've been working on something for my birthday, he said, smiling like we were buddies. I didn't answer. Just turned and walked into the living room. He followed me, glanced around the house like it offended him. Grandpa sat back in his recliner, arms crossed. Go on, Carter. Ask him what you came here for. He didn't like that. I could see it in his jaw. But he swallowed it. I heard you were buying a car, he said, turning to me. And I thought maybe, considering everything, you'd still want to give it to me. I raised my eyebrows. Considering everything? Look, he said. I know we've had disagreements. Disagreements? I said. You mean like when you told Dana you wish I was never born? He blinked. Didn't answer. That silence was louder than anything. I was gonna give you the car, I said. I had it reserved. All you had to do was not spit in my face behind closed doors. You can't take back a gift, he said, desperate now. That's not how this works. It's not your gift anymore. Grandpa cut in. You burned that bridge. Now go home before you embarrass yourself further. Carter didn't move at first. Just stood there with that same blank stare he always had when things didn't go his way. Then he muttered something under his breath and turned back toward the door. You still got my number, he said to me. If you change your mind. When the door shut, Grandpa let out a long sigh and reached for the remote. He's gonna come back, he said. They always come back when there's something to take. And I believed him. But what I didn't expect was who showed up the next day. Not Carter. Dana. Alone. The doorbell rang just after noon. I was in the garage helping Grandpa rearrange some old tools when we heard it. He glanced toward the front of the house and muttered. Told you. I figured Carter was back for round 2. I wasn't in the mood. But when I opened the door, it was Dana standing there. No makeup, big sunglasses, and holding a Tupperware container like we were still playing house. Hi, John, she said, trying to sound warm. I hadn't heard her say my name like that since I was 10. I leaned against the doorframe. You here to pick him up? No, she said. He's at work. I came on my own. Grandpa came up behind me, drying his hands on an old rag. Well, look who finally left the throne. Dana forced a smile. Can I come in? Grandpa opened the screen door but didn't say a word. I walked back to the kitchen and waited for whatever version of this woman was about to show up. She followed me in and put the Tupperware on the counter. I made your favorite. The lasagna, she said. Figured you might miss a little home cooking. I looked at it like it was evidence in a crime scene. We both know you haven't cooked anything for me in 3 years. She paused. I'm trying, John. To do what? Rewrite the last decade? I know Carter hurt you. He shouldn't have said what he did. He didn't say it to me. He said it about me. To you. And you laughed. She went quiet, probably rehearsing some line she came up with in the car. She glanced at Grandpa, But he just shook his head and poured himself coffee. I didn't mean it like that, she finally said. I crossed my arms. Then how did you mean it? She looked like she was about to answer, but nothing came out. You know, if it weren't for Henry, I'd still be in that house thinking I was the problem. You were never the problem, she said too quickly. Carter he's under a lot of pressure. There it is, Grandpa muttered. That damn excuse again. Dana turned toward him. You think I don't know who he is? I've been married to the man for almost 30 years. But he's still my husband. And he's still my son. Doesn't mean I'm blind. There was a long silence before she spoke again. He really thought you'd still give him the car, she said, looking at me. He's been looking up Mustangs online, picking out colors. I didn't say anything. He's angry now. But he'll get over it. Eventually. Why are you really here? I asked. She blinked. If this is just about damage control, you can leave the lasagna and go. Dana stepped back like I slapped her. Then she straightened up and gave me the first real look I'd seen from her in years. He's losing it, John, she said. Your grandfather telling him you were getting everything? That didn't sit well. You know how he is. That's why you're here, Grandpa said. You're not here for him. You're here for yourself. She didn't deny it. I just don't want this family falling apart. I laughed. It was never together. She stood there a second longer, then turned and walked out. Didn't even take the lasagna. After the door closed, Grandpa and I sat in silence for a while. Then he said something I didn't expect. She's scared, he said. Because deep down she knows it's over. Not just the car. Everything. That night, Carter called again. I let it ring. But the day after that, someone else showed up. Uncle Travis. When I saw Uncle Travis' old Dodge pull into the driveway, I knew something was up. He wasn't the kind of guy to just drop by. He lived 3 towns over, hated traffic, and always said gas was too expensive to waste on unplanned visits. He got out with a grin, sunglasses on, and 2 coffees in hand, as if he knew we'd be in the garage. Well, he said, handing me one. Heard you caused a little earthquake in Carterville. Grandpa laughed from his workbench. Are you here to see the aftershocks? Hell no, Travis said. I came to help finish the demolition. Uncle Travis was the only sibling Carter had, and the 2 of them couldn't be more different. Travis ran a small contracting business, worked hard, raised 2 kids on his own after a divorce, and never once complained. He and I always got along. He used to slip me $20 every vacation when I was younger and say things like, "Don't let your old man convince you you're worthless." He sat down on the stool next to me and took a drink. So let me get this straight. You worked for 2 years to buy him a car, and the night before you were about to change his life, he tells Dana he wishes you were never born. Pretty much, I said. And she laughed? I nodded. Jesus Christ. He muttered. And now he still wants the car? Grandpa filled him in on everything, how Carter had texted me, how Dana had shown up pretending everything could be fixed with a lasagna, how Carter was now sulking like a child who didn't get his way. Then Travis leaned forward. All right. Here's what we're going to do. When's the birthday? 3 days, I said. Perfect, he said. You didn't cancel anything, did you? I hadn't made any official plans yet. Just had the car held and was going to show up with it. Even better. We'll cancel it for him. I looked at Grandpa. He was already grinning. Travis pulled out his phone. I've got every relative's number. I'll tell them Carter's little party is off. I'll tell them why, too. Word for word what he said about you. You'd be surprised how quickly people change their minds about free cake when they hear the host wishes his own son didn't exist. I was stunned for a moment. You'd really do that? He looked at me like I was crazy. John, I should have intervened years ago. I watched that man treat you like a stray dog while Dana backed him up like it was a game plan. Enough is enough. Within the hour, Travis was on the phone. First his sister Marie. then Aunt Connie, then cousins on both sides. He didn't hold back. He repeated exactly what Carter said about me, even adding how Dana laughed. Each call ended with the same thing: no one was coming. By the end of the day, the birthday party was dead. The only people Carter would have were Dana and maybe a balloon if she remembered to get one from Dollar Tree. And we weren't done yet. Travis turned to me. "You still got the car?" "Yeah." "Good. We'll take it for a ride." Not to him. Just a drive. "You're the one who deserves it. And on his birthday, you and me and Henry will show up. Not with a present. Just the car. That way he knows exactly what he lost." I sat back in my chair, stunned, smiling. This wasn't about revenge. This was about the truth finally getting a seat at the table. And Carter's table? It was about to be empty. The day before Carter's birthday, we picked up the car. It was candy red, spotless, roaring with that low-pitched purr that turned heads as you drove by. The salesman shook my hand like I'd won the lottery, unaware that he was handing me a loaded gun pointed straight at my father's ego. I drove it off the lot with Travis in the passenger seat and Grandpa in his old pickup. We didn't go home. First stop was the beach strip, top down, wind ripping through, sun hitting the hood like it was designed by the gods. I watched the people watching us, and for the first time in a long time, I felt it. Not pride. Not revenge. Just relief. Like 2 years of pressure had finally cracked open and spilled into the air. We drove for hours. Took it through Carter's favorite part of town, parked it in front of the diner where he used to take clients and brag about cars he never owned. Travis and I sat in a booth by the window, sipping coffee as the Mustang gleamed in the sun. I caught a few people stopping and taking pictures. One guy even walked around it twice like he couldn't believe it was real. We didn't say much. Around 5, we drove it to Grandpa's house and parked it right out front. I stood there for a second, staring at it, thinking how close I came to giving it to a man who once told his wife I was the worst thing that ever happened to him. This car was going to be his salvation. His one chance to prove he cared. Now it was a monument to his failure. I slept better that night than I had in months. The next morning, his birthday, we were up early. Travis brought donuts. Grandpa made his terrible coffee. The 3 of us stood in the kitchen like we were planning a robbery. At 10 sharp, we rolled out. Travis drove Grandpa's truck. I took the Mustang. We didn't text Carter. We didn't knock. We just pulled up to his house, loud and slow, like a funeral procession in reverse. Carter came out first. He looked like he was waiting for someone else, maybe the relatives who would never show up. He wore that tacky button-down with gold trim, like he thought today was still about him. Then he saw the car. I got out, leaned against the door, didn't say a word. He walked over with his mouth open. "You really bought it," he said. "You got the Mustang." I nodded once. I didn't hand him anything. He waited. Reached out, like he was expecting keys. Then it hit me. "You're not giving them to me." I said nothing. Grandpa came up behind me. "Not yours, Carter." It never was. He looked around. Dana peeked through the curtains as if she didn't know how to deal with what was happening. No one else came out. The neighborhood was quiet. Even the birds seemed to stop for a minute. Carter looked at Travis. "You told everyone not to come." Travis didn't flinch. "Sure I did. And I told them why." Carter's face twisted as if he had to choose between anger and embarrassment. He chose both. "You think that makes you look good? You think humiliating me on my birthday makes you a man?" I finally spoke. "I'm not trying to look good, Carter. I just stopped pretending that you deserve anything." He stood there for a second, then turned and stormed back into the house, slamming the door hard enough to knock a picture frame off the wall inside. I looked at Grandpa. He was smiling, calm as ever. "Now," he said, "let's take this thing for another spin." We let the car idle for a second, then I slid back into the driver's seat, pulled away slowly, and didn't look back. Next stop, the last part. The morning after Carter's birthday, The silence was like a fog, thick, heavy, everywhere. I kept checking my phone, not because I wanted to hear from him, but because I expected it. A breakdown. A guilt trip. Maybe even Dana reappearing, trying to sell another performance. But there was nothing. Just that painful silence that always follows when a man who thinks the world revolves around him realizes it doesn't. Travis had already left. He gave me a long look before he drove off, didn't say much, just, "You did it, kid. Don't go soft on me now." Grandpa didn't say anything either. Just sat at the kitchen table, sipping black coffee, looking out the window like he was watching the world rebuild itself. The Mustang was still in the driveway, perfectly parked. Not a scratch on it. Bright, unapologetic red. I kept finding myself staring at it, like I was still waiting for the right moment to give it away, even though that moment had already come and gone. That afternoon, I told Grandpa I wanted to go for one last ride. He just nodded and said, "Don't come back with any regrets." I didn't have a plan. I just drove. Took the long way out of town. Back roads, highways, dead roads with nothing but trees and radio static. The kind of drive that feels like therapy when you don't want to talk to anyone. But around sunset, something pulled me toward the old industrial yard on the west side of town. Carter used to take me there when I was a kid. He said it was where he learned to drive. He said it was where real men learned to handle horsepower. He always made it seem like a sacred place. We'd drive there in his rusty old Camaro, and I'd sit in the passenger seat while he shouted instructions like a coach yelling at a quarterback who never impressed him. I hadn't been there in years. The place was worse than I remembered it. Overgrown weeds, twisted fences, tire tracks from God knows what. It looked like time had tried to erase it, but gave up halfway through. I parked the Mustang right in the middle. Turned off the engine. Got out. I stood there for a long time, just looking at it. And for the first time, it didn't feel like Carter's car. It didn't even feel like mine. It felt like something I needed to let go of. I drove around it slowly, opened the trunk, and pulled out the envelope. I had stuffed it the night before with all the receipts, the proof of purchase, and a handwritten letter not to Carter, but to whoever got the car next. The nonprofit I found online helped foster kids who were aging out of the system. They gave them the basic tools to survive: job leads, apartments, and if they were lucky, cars. They needed it more than anyone. I left the envelope on the passenger seat, locked the car, and slid the keys into the donation box nailed to the front gate of the office 2 blocks away. The office was closed, but the drop was open 24/7. This car was not going to sit in a driveway and rot under a man who didn't deserve it. It was going to someone who needed a fresh start. I walked home. 5 miles. No ride. No music. Just the sound of gravel and my own thoughts. The next morning I woke up to 2 things. The first was a text from the nonprofit. "Thank you, John. You just changed a life." The second was a voicemail from Carter. It was short. No hello, no intro. "So you gave it away. You'd rather give it to a stranger than your own father. I hope this makes you feel strong. Just know that when your grandfather dies, you'll be alone." I listened to it twice. Then I deleted it. Because here's the truth that Carter will never understand: being alone is a hell of a lot better than being surrounded by people who make you wish you were. And I've never felt more free.